Hi everyone, my name is Ren from Quicksave Interactive. In this tutorial, we're going to be discussing the drag trigger in the UI editor. The drag trigger is useful for creating interactive elements in your game. These include, of course, being able to drag, scroll, and swipe your elements. Let's dive into the UI editor and learn what we can accomplish using the drag trigger. In our UI editor, we have our grid, which we have made in a previous tutorial. This grid is reminiscent of a merge or match style game. I've also added a new sprite here. You are free to add whatever sprite you prefer. I added the sprite for the Quicksave mascot. We're going to make this sprite movable across our grid. In order to properly move our sprite across each of the grid tiles, I've set the size of the sprite container to be 160 by 160. This allows our sprite to remain in the center of each grid tile when moved, while compensating for the gap between each of the grid tiles. We are now going to add a drag trigger to our mascot container for the sprite. Let's go to the triggers section in the node properties. Here you will click this pencil icon and then click the drag X checkbox. This will now allow us to be able to drag our sprite container node across the X-axis. Let's activate play mode with the F6 key, and then in the view, drag our sprite across the X-axis. As you can see, it drags quite nicely. But we do run into one issue, and that is, our sprite is able to go in between the gaps of this grid. Let's add steps next, which allow us to snap to the nearest grid item. Back in the triggers, we'll click the pencil icon again, and we'll click Drag Steps X. And we have 5 of these boxes across, these grid items. Let's add 5 Drag Steps X as the value. Now, if I were to drag our sprite, you can see that it snaps to the nearest grid item. This works quite nicely. And we cannot drag it outside of the bounds. We can also control the snap duration and easing of our drag trigger. Let's go ahead back to the pencil icon and add a drag snap duration and a drag snap easing property. Let's set the drag snap duration to 0.5 and the easing to ease out cubic. Now, if I were to drag again, you can see that there is a bit more of a delay when it snaps to the grid item. Let's go ahead and do the same for the y-axis. Going back to the triggers section, I will click the pencil once more and click the drag y property. I will also add the drag steps y property as well. I will leave the drag y as drag for the value, and for the drag steps y value, I will set this as 5. So now, in our view, we should be able to move our mascot sprite down the y-axis as well. And we can. And it also snaps quite nicely here too. Now, since we have both the X and Y drag activated, we can also drag diagonally. And in any which direction we would like. And the mascot sprite node will snap correctly in place to the grid item in the background. The drag trigger is a powerful feature in the Quicksave toolkit, and I have no doubt you'll find use for it. In the next videos, we will cover the scroll and swipe values of the drag trigger. Thank you for watching. See you again next time.